Welcome to Maine, we're stretched to the bone. Prices keep rising, the paycheck stays prone. Inflation keeps knocking, won't leave us alone. They're selling the lie, groceries climbing, the gas tank is low. The bill's hitting harder than snow, but silence still blankets the truth. Where does it go? They're selling the lie. Housing is gridlocked from Portland to the county. Workers commute far past what feels soundly. Talk of solution comes yearly, not loudly. They're selling the lie. They're selling the lie. Say every voice counts, but watch who gets lifted. Some stories vanish, some get the spotlight shifted. Depends on what trends and what keeps them gifted. They're selling the lie. I won't believe them, I wanna believe, but truth's always stuck in between. Static and spin, drown the signal again. Nothing is what it seems. I wanna believe you, but every headline turns daylight into redesigned skies. Facts get twisted, context missing. We choke on the simplified alibis. Wanna believe you, but all I see is shadows where the answers should shine. The fact is fiction.
Welcome to the Muddy Waters Podcast, where Mainers tell their stories, unfiltered.
Good afternoon, Maine. This is Chuck Ellis, once again, the host of the Muddy Waters Podcast here, doing what we do, which is, trying to, I think, one of the things we do is we interview candidates that the mainstream media largely likes to ignore, which is any Republican candidate at this point. But also we, interview people that from all across anybody who's got a story to tell that I think the mainstream media wants to ignore. That's what we want to do. We want to help, join alongside the other freedom fighters like the Maine Wire, Maine X Community, Unquire, and help the people of Maine better understand what's going on in our political scene here. And today, we're fortunate we have with us gubernatorial candidate Robert Wessels. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been on here with you, Chuck.
Yes, about a year. I didn't go back and look at the books exactly, but I think you did your first interview with me. I believe it was in either February or maybe March of last year. So,
I didn't look either, but that sounds about right. So, thank you for having me on. A lot of things have happened since you and I last chatted.
They sure have. Yeah, it's at the time that you were on, you were the only declared candidate. Since then, on the Republican side, I think we now are up to, I don't know. There's some guy out of Bangor that I don't even know his name that's declared. So I think we're at like 10 or maybe 11 declared Republican candidates.
It's 10.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have some, I mean, you've announced this publicly, but you also in social media and a couple other places. But you have done something that no one else has done before you in this cycle at the very least.
I will announce that if there were a vote today, I would be the winning Republican because I am the only one on the ballot at this point. And I think what you were alluding to is we did this super fast. I have an amazing volunteer team. We can certainly go into how we did it and what that looked like and how we prepared and stuff like that. But the bottom line is the earliest, and this is not factual, so certainly we can get some fact checkers out there. But the earliest I've been able to find is that anybody has done this was February 1st. And we officially turned in our ballots and turned in our signatures and we're on the ballot as of January 29th this year. So I like to call it record setting, but in the very least, I was the first out of 22 gubernatorial candidates this year.
Yeah, which I think it says something. So I think like one of the things about your story and that's worth commenting on is I think a lot of people doubted you, right? You were the first Republican gubernatorial candidate to declare, and you did it in like I don't know 2020 or something like that. I'm being a little facetious there, but I think it was like
July of
mid.
2023.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's okay. Yeah,
absolutely. A long
mid
time ago.
yeah, mid 2023 for the 2026 election. So, earlier than I think most people had ever heard of somebody declaring. And so you declared way back then. And I think a lot of people wrote you off, right? And didn't, haven't really considered you. And I think like it's a little bit of a flex to be not only be the first candidate on the ballot officially, but to like set a record. And well, I mean, it's obviously due to how much money you pay all of your signature collectors, right?
Oh, absolutely, right. We were absolutely up against a bunch of uh, campaigns who pay their signature collectors. And yes, I see the smile. I all mine are 100% volunteer, including me, by the way. So we're a 100% volunteer team, and they just absolutely kicked butt and did an amazing job. Uh, it was ultimately my intention in doing this was to make a statement because we have been doubted, and most people write us off because we don't have a ton of money in the coffers. We don't take big money from big donors, and uh, we don't take government funded It's not a government funded campaign like some of them out there. And so it was to make a statement and say, listen, we don't need big money to be successful. We need passionate volunteers who are willing to get out there, be active, uh, and stand up for what they see as my vision and that they want me in the Blaine House. So I think we made that statement.
Yeah, I mean, collecting over almost 2,200 signatures, if I'm not mistaken. Are those verified? Is that what the 22?
Yeah, that was verified. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So 2,200 almost verified signatures, which is over the threshold of 2,000, which is what you need to get on the ballot in record time with no budget. I think it says a lot about the grassroots organizing nature of your campaign. And so I think it's interesting is like as is kind of par for the course, right? You did this, and the mainstream media obviously was like, "Oh, wow, this is record setting. Let's write an article about it. Let's interview him for WCSH 6." Right? They interviewed you. Is that right?
Oh yeah, they were lined up at my door trying to get, they were trying to break down the door to get interviews with me, just like they were when I launched my campaign,
Hmm.
just like when I was the first candidate out there when the season started. Yeah, no, crickets. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So once again, they ignored you, but more than that, didn't they go beyond just ignoring you?
Yeah, so what happened was I went a little untraditional, shocker there, right? I think there's been nothing traditional about this campaign. And so I went a little untraditional, and I announced when we had collected more than 2,000 signatures. So again, those signatures were not verified at that point. We had not taken them to all the town offices. By the way, like I always thought the signature gathering part was going to be the crazy hard part, and it was hard. But getting them verified was pretty hard as well, just logistically and time wise and things like that, especially when you're wanting to do it quickly. And so I announced on January 16th that we had collected our 2,000 signatures. And yes, the response was absolutely crickets. Nobody, the Maine Wire, I believe, reposted that on
Yep.
socials. But other than that, nobody else cared. Mainstream media wise. And then on January 28th, I believe it was something around there, they announced to the world that Narav Shah was the first candidate who had collected over 2,000 signatures. I'm like, I just thought that they just didn't care because they weren't verified. So yeah, we reached back out to him. Actually, kudos to my social media networks. I really we didn't reach back out to them. Everybody bombarded them with tags and everything on Facebook and X, and they eventually, about midday, reached out to me via email and said, "So it would appear that we missed you," and they wanted to talk about that. So that being said, I knew that at that stage, we were 90% sure that we were going to be turning them in the next day. So I waited to respond. And that night, once we knew we had collected over the 2,000 signatures, almost 2,200 signatures, we were able to, I responded and said, "Oh, by the way, at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, you can come and cover us actually turning them in a day after they just announced the big news from Narav." So
Yeah. Nice. Well, and so they came and they did an article on you then?
yeah, so they came and they recorded us, did a short interview there. I was kudos to them. Again, they
Yeah.
were the only mainstream media there.
Which station was this? Was this
This was News Center, Maine.
okay?
Yeah.
Is that, and are they part of what is that, WCSH 6, or is that something else?
Uh, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't
I
watch.
should know.
I don't
I
watch
should know
mainstream
that.
media, Chuck.
I don't
Uh,
either. I think you. I know that you're being the candidate and you're supposed to do this, but like I've heard another name used for News Center Maine. Have you?
uh, is that
New.
the News Center of Shame?
That's the one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't. I don't
Yes,
think they
yes.
like it. Yeah. Um. Yeah. But
So they did cover it. However,
to
I
their
will
credit, they
say,
covered it. Yeah.
to their credit, but even in their coverage of that, they still mentioned that Dr. Shaw was the one on the Democratic side who had done this. He'd completed it. He just didn't turn it in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, like if you're doing homework, do you get credit for that if it's not turned in?
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, he's done part of it. Like kudos, like, but it's not the same. It's not complete.
Right. Well, it's interesting too. I think Nirav Shah is one of the people, for the people who are paying attention. And one of the things I was talking with somebody recently, and a lot of people in when it comes to Maine politics are not paying attention yet. Right. They're not paying attention to the gubernatorial race. And what's really interesting, I think potentially concerning, is that because of how big the US Senate race is, I don't know that they ever will get to the point where they're aggressively paying attention to the gubernatorial race. So no matter who you are, no matter who comes out of the Republican primary, we're going to have an aggressive grassroots on the ground campaign to be able to win the general, to have a chance at winning the general, because we're not going to be able to compete financially with the amount of money that Susan Collins and whoever she's running against, which despite the fact that everybody on the right seems to be attacking Janet Mills because they seem to think she's going to be the candidate, I actually think it's more likely the more that we attack Mills, the more likely it is that that Graham Plattner, who to me is a bit more frightening, is the candidate against her. But regardless of who she's against, there's going to be so much money spent on that good luck getting an advertisement in anywhere, really. I mean, I've heard anywhere between $400 and $600 million on that Senate race. And with that kind of money thrown at this, like, where are you going to be able to go and buy ads? And if you do, they're just going to be really expensive. You might be able to get some, but you're not going to get a great bang for your buck. And so we are, in order for the Republican Party to win, we need a strong on the ground grassroots campaign for Republicans. Obviously, as you know, the mainstream media is not our friend. I would say that, like, I've had some experiences with mainstream media in Maine, and I would say that for the most part, I've been quoted fairly, and I've appreciated that. I don't trust them still. They still only report on the things that they feel like reporting on. But they're not, they're definitely not, they're not reporting on, they're not reporting fairly in general, but they have been more fair in certain situations. So anyway, but the point that I was getting at, and then I'll let you talk because this is about you, Mr. Wessels, is that I think Nirav Shah is probably underestimated. Most people, when they're looking at the Democrat side, think that Hannah Pingree is definitely going to walk away with it. Nirav Shah might be the more challenge. He's very loved on the left because of the COVID days, because they love COVID. They want COVID to come back. That's why you sometimes see them out in masks. They're like, please, more COVID. But anyway, So it's no surprise that they're touting him, because I think that's who there's a good
Well,
chance is going
yeah.
to come out of the
And when you
Democrat
think
side.
back to those COVID days, right? Janet Mills had him in the news every day. Like he had always give an update and say, hey, by the way, here are your new rules for the day, what you can do and what you can't do, what we're, the freedoms we're taking away and the freedoms that we might be giving back to you a little bit. And so, he very much was on a first name basis, very comfortable level with the media. And so they're used to him. And to your point, right? Uh, he's a fairly big name, but he's not a Shana Bellows type big name or a Pingree type big name or a King, right? And so I do think that a lot of people are looking at those other big names, and he's sneaking under the radar, which is great for him. He's not quite Jason Cherry level, where people still don't know he's even in the race necessarily.
I
Um,
didn't.
but but I agree with you. I think the other big piece that you were talking about, going back a little bit to the media buys, right? I'll be completely honest, that helps my campaign, because I don't know if you've looked at the finance reports or not, but
Some of them, but
at this moment, I don't have a lot of money to be able to throw at TV ads anyway. And so having them be astronomical in cost means that my competitors, my opponents on either side will be buying less airtime for their money. And I'm not going that route. I've not been planning to be dependent on the mainstream media, paid or unpaid, through this campaign because they're not my friend. And so we're going to be boots on the ground. We're going to be doing this old fashioned, going door to door and having meetings in real life with real people, having conversations, answering questions. That's been the plan the whole time. And we will continue to go that route.
yeah, well, no matter who, I think like that is the most effective strategy to win elections, right? Is boots on the ground, but also like both candidate going door to door, but people going door to door on behalf of candidates. These are some of the most impactful, the most yeah, I guess the best ways in which we can impact the election, because people will get to know their neighbors and their friends, and I think that you have a much better job of influencing somebody than some random person stopping by or paid people. I mean, obviously, if you can get people and you've got the money to be able to spend, I think getting somebody, even if they're paid, is better than nothing. But volunteers and going door to door is really the strategy that will take to win this election for Republicans. I mean, that's just to me, that's just a reality. And so I'm glad that that's part of your strategy. I do think that there are things that can be gained by spending some money in social media and some other places, but ultimately, I like the reality is it's the door to door game. There are some other tactics such as texts and things like that I think will need to be employed. And texts are much less expensive in a lot of ways, I think, than paid advertising. And you can send your message directly to the voter. So I think that's one that I'm hoping you or whoever else is the person representing us after June will employ.
Yeah, and we've already done some text messaging. We've done some calling. Those are very reasonably priced and relatively effective as well. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, yeah, you can create an ad in social media, Facebook, or on TV, and somebody may watch it, but they're gonna look at their phone, right? So if
yeah,
you send them a text
yeah,
now. I get tons of these, like, and let me just see, just check. I wasn't sure if I might have gotten one since we started talking. No, but I do get them very frequently, and I'm like, stop. But, and some people will do that, right? But if it's different. I remember, in 2024, I got a text from somebody running for state senate, and I was like, oh, nice. And I didn't click stop. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's mostly like I'm getting like when people are inundated with text messages from national campaigns for this or that. And it's like, well, they're doing it because it's working, right? Number one, they're not just spending money to spend money. So clearly it's having an impact in some places. And so they've created a targeted strategy around that. But it's a much more effective strategy if it's local. So if you're a local candidate, if you're running for House or Senate or something like that, this is going to be part of your campaign strategy because it is effective. But we definitely need to make sure this is happening up ticket as well with candidates like Robert. So Robert, do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, like just what it's been like and to be going through the process of running for governor for 2.5 years? What are you hearing from people on the streets, or what's the most important thing that you would want to share with people today?
So, as you said, as we talked about earlier, I've been campaigning for a little bit more than 2.5 years at this point, and it's been, number one, I highly encourage it. It's been an absolute amazing experience. Hard, crazy hard, but absolutely worth it. And I think my favorite part has just been getting out, and I've had thousands upon thousands of conversations all over the state, seeing, meeting people where they're at, and just having those conversations to find out, where are they? Like, where are they financially, emotionally? Like, what do they think of? How are we doing as a state? And I had created my own list beforehand saying, okay, like, here's what I think the issues are. And then, and created a platform based on that, and then went out and started having all of these conversations after I officially launched the campaign. And I will tell you, I was spot on. My list hasn't changed, and yet probably 75 to 80% of the conversations I have, I call it's personal economics, right? It's your electricity bill, it's your mortgage, it's your housing costs, it's your property taxes, it's your cost of living, food. And so it's the how can I make it, right? Janet Mills just referred to this in her State of the State speech, and she talked about the affordability. Congratulations, Chuck. Here's $300. I'm like, are you completely out of touch?
I
Like,
might
this is not
pay
what
a
people need.
portion of my heat for a month.
Right, exactly. Right. Like,
Right.
it won't even, it's my electricity bill last month went up above $500.
Oh,
And and I'm expecting that it's going to go up again, because again, that was December's, and so it
wow.
hasn't. I haven't actually seen the increase, and so you're right. Like, that $300 might cover half of my next electricity bill, which is absolutely crazy, because we're just a family of five on a single residence, and so um, but she's just completely out of touch with reality on where people are. What they need is they need a reduction in the cost of living. They need a reduction in taxes. They need a limited government, smaller size footprint of the government. Uh, and they need their government to have some self-control and say no to things, which again really comes from my business perspective and the way I have lived my life, for my whole adult life. And the way I've taught people to budget for the last 18 years. And so we need somebody in Augusta who's able to control those expenses. And again, I've loved having those conversations and meeting people around the state, and really just getting to know the grassroots network, that volunteer team that carried us across the finish line for getting on the ballot first, uh, is 100% people who I've met around the state over the last couple of years, who said, "Hey, I want to help you. I want to do this. I'm jumping in," and so it was a blast, and I'm seeing the benefits of the campaign is seeing the benefits of the 2.5 years that we have spent getting to know people in Maine.
Yeah, I definitely I think that's what you've done, win, lose or draw. I think it's been a really positive for the Republican movement, and I appreciate, like, regardless of what happens. I mean, I appreciate all the candidates that are running, but like you like running for as long as you have, working, building relationships all across the state, especially in the face of like a lot of doubt, that's been thrown at you, has been in a way we'll say inspirational, and I appreciate you for that. But when you talk about like the issue um, that I think is the most important, which is cost of living. You didn't use those words, but like affordability, cost of living. These are the catchphrases that people are saying. But like, it's expensive to live in Maine, and it is so largely because of Democrat policy. Almost exclusively when you compare. I mean, I shouldn't say almost exclusively. The increase in the national debt, the funding things related to the Federal Reserve, all that kind of stuff, created inflation, right? But outside that affected all states. So compare Maine to other states, and what's made things worse for us here is primarily government, state government policy. And one of the issues that I remember you talking to me about, which you were the first person that I'd heard talk about it, I think when you had actually come out, I was running for House, and I think if I'm not, I was running for House, but you helped me go out and collect signatures to get a school board candidate on the ballot who ended up winning. And so as we were doing that, and you were also obviously introducing yourself to people, and somebody, and the issue of energy came up, and this is when you brought that up, and I hadn't heard about small modular nuclear before that. And so I really appreciate that, because I think like getting energy under control, unlike I have a hard time, like, not just calling her an idiot, but Austin Powers, I mean, Janet Mills, like claimed that the problem is not that we are doing too much in terms of what they call clean energy, which is wind and solar, but that we're not doing enough of it. We're too reliant on fossil fuels, is what she said. That's why the cost is going up, despite the fact that like the data and the evidence 100% proves that it's actually like the most expensive. Those are the most expensive forms of energy, especially the way that they've structured it with all the subsidies for the solar panel people, all that kind of stuff. Nonsense. Cider, who's been paying attention on here, also wanted to comment that you were the first candidate to talk one-on-one about the 207 North Star directive. I'm not even familiar with that, so I don't know if you want to like briefly explain what that is.
I will certainly not be able to do it justice. But what Cider has done, we had a great conversation, and he's one of those that I was referring to as far as the many conversations I've been able to have during this campaign and thoroughly enjoy. Basically, the high level of what Cider has put together with the 207 North Star Directive is a look at what can we do to move Maine forward with a lot of what I would call outside the box, outside your typical political jargon, right? Not just talking nuclear, but talking high-speed trains, talking like all of this stuff, that at a high level will move Maine forward in a new direction. So yeah, definitely I would highly recommend anybody, but you especially, Chuck, reach out to Cider, and uh, I believe he has some presentations he could send you and things like that. But interesting ideas and concepts that are more outside the box, and I loved the conversation with him. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've had some conversations. I'm actually going to go on with him. He does this thing called Mainerville on Wednesdays, and so it's a kind of like a podcast kind of thing, is my understanding. He did one for the State of the State last week, if I'm not, whenever that was. I think it was last week, and I'm going on with him today at 6:30. But I'll touch base with him more on that specific directive. But your comments in general, I think one of the problems that we sometimes get in on the Republican side is that Republicans get really motivated and really excited about social issues. And what I'm hearing is, as you're going around, the primary thing, the biggest thing that people are talking about is economics. I think we need to remember that and focus on the things that people care about the most. Yeah, we do need to address the social issues, and I think that will help get some people out to vote. But I really think it's the economics that are going to drive things. And if we have a chance at flipping this year and taking back control of the House, the Senate, and the governor's race, it's by focusing on the things that people care about. And yeah,
I was just going to say, right, the reality is it's life, right? And I've had people go, "Oh, I don't talk about politics." I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about life. Let's talk about your energy bill, right? Let's talk about property taxes, housing." But But at the same time, right, to a smaller number of people, the social issues are life, right?
Hmm.
Whether
Yeah.
their son or daughter is going through this. I just had somebody who shared a picture of sent to her from her daughter of, she was in a stall in a ladies' bathroom in a high school and took a photo looking outside the stall. Out there's this basically a fairly wide crack, and she could see into the hallway because the school had chained open the door, right? Like these are social issues, but they're real world issues in that
Yeah.
family at that time, and they need to be
Right.
addressed. And so as a candidate, you're going to need to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
However, again, the vast majority of the people that I talk to, what is on their mind right now, how do I not just live, but how do I thrive? Right? That's my
Yeah.
wording. But the reality is they're sitting here going, I'm scraping by day, trying to make this work. And I'm like, we need to make it so we get the government out of your way so you can thrive. Instead, we just keep feeding this government monster and it just grows dramatically. It's grown $4.4 billion since Janet Mills has been in. Put that into perspective, it was hundreds of years that it took it to get over 7 billion. And so in 7 years, it's gone up $4.4 billion. We just keep feeding this thing and expecting better results. And every time you're feeding it, you're taking your money and mine, and that is less that we have to live on, and that's less that we have to thrive. We can't create our own small business. Why? Because we're trying to put food on our table, because we're trying to pay our rent or pay our mortgage. And so yes, the financial piece is a large piece of that, and we need somebody who's willing to make the hard decisions for the government, for the people.
100%. Yeah, I mean that's leadership, right? You got to be willing to make the difficult decisions, and we're not really seeing. Well, you have to be pragmatic and make the difficult decision that is the right decision. Right now, on the other side of the aisle, we have people who are very willing to make difficult decisions, but they're just making the wrong decision, and doing things that are harmful, because they would say, like, these climate initiatives, for instance, which are definitely damaging people, are good for the long run. This is what they want you to believe. The reality is there's something else afoot, but that's what they would argue. So they're willing to make difficult decisions that cause your costs to go up. But
I
yeah,
don't know
anyway,
that they're even looking at our costs, right? Like, I don't
yeah,
know that they're even, again, finally, on her way out the door, Janet Mills is acknowledging that it's not affordable in Maine. Her solution, send you a $300 check, right? That's not addressing the problem, right? When I look, so again, I've been teaching people how to write personal budgets and helping them with their personal finances in my community for over 18 years, right? And those hard decisions, everybody can spend money on what they want to spend money on, right? In our personal world, we don't just get to say, hey, taxpayer, give us more money. That's what they're doing in Augusta. They're literally looking and saying, oh, what do we want? Okay, we need more money. What do we want? Oh, we need more money. Those aren't hard decisions, right? They may be unpopular for at least half Mainers, but they're not necessarily the hard decision. The hard decision is to sit there and in your personal budget to go, I really want this. I really want to go out to eat. I really want to buy such and such, but I can't right now. I'm going to have to save for that for a year. I'm going to have to, I'll be honest, I've been wanting to pave my driveway for years now. It's a family joke, because it's still not paved. And, one of those things that I decided to do a gubernatorial campaign instead. And so again, it's those hard decisions that you have to weigh and sit there and go, okay, like I can't have it all.
mhm.
What is it worth saving for? What is it worth spending on? And our government is not doing that. And we need somebody who's willing to make those hard decisions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Anybody who's willing to run for office, especially run for, a position like governor and be under all the scrutiny, and especially where, I feel like it's true, that you have dealt with a little bit, some additional challenges that a lot of candidates don't necessarily do. But so I appreciate you running in the face of all of that, some of the negativity that your campaign has received, in addition, just simply for being a Republican, and pressing through. And again, like what you've done, win, lose, or draw, has been impressive. And I really appreciate you sacrificing so much to try and make our state better, because that's what it's all about.
Happy to do it. It's absolutely worth it. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate just a chance to be able to chat and talk about Maine, talk about life. For any of your viewers, they can go to, if they haven't heard of me, if they don't follow me on X, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, you name it. But go to voterobertwessels.com, where you can learn more and you can reach out, right? Go to my website. You can reach out. I have my email address, my phone number on there. I want to hear from you.
Can they also give you money there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we will use it wisely, and be meticulous with it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Robert, and best of luck to you in the rest of the race.
Thank you, Chuck. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. See you all. We'll be back here tomorrow with Aaron Chadbourne.